Forever wardrobe PFAS in waterproof, stain-resistant, and wrinkle-free. The first clue wasn't on a label. It was in a living room that smelled faintly like a new tent. A firefighter's jacket hung by the door. Across the room, a couch repelled every spill like it had a force field. Same trick, 2 rooms, 1 chemical family, PFAS. The promise reads clean. Water doesn't soak, pizza grease glides, coffee beads and bounces. The price is persistence. These compounds don't break down on a schedule you'd recognize. They move from fabric to dust, from dust to hands, and in too many cases, from hands into blood. You meet them where the claims sound helpful. Durable water repellent on outdoor shells, stain-resistant on school uniforms and table linens, wrinkle-free on work shirts that never need an iron. That performance often rides on fluorinated chemistry, side-chain fluoropolymers and finishes that give fibers their slick skin. The effect is dramatic. So is the afterlife. Tests in North America found PFAS markers in a majority of school uniforms labeled stain-resistant. Another set of jackets clocked levels so high European labs treated them like industrial gear, not clothing. That's the hard part to swallow. Nobody bought a hazmat suit, they bought a back-to-school package. Meanwhile, the compounds don't stay put. Friction and wear shed microbits. Washing pushes residues toward wastewater. Dryers lift volatile fragments into indoor air. The dose on a sleeve might be small. The loop is daily and quiet. Dress, move, shed, breathe, touch, eat. The trail ends in house dust and too often in people. Here, where policy writes different stories. The EU is moving to restrict PFAS broadly, with national bans already proposed that include textiles and narrow exemptions for true safety gear. Their chemical strategy treats non-essential use as a reason to phase out. The United States moves in pieces, may set a timeline to ban most PFAS in products. California and New York have gone after PFAS in textiles and food packaging. Brands announce phase out. At the federal level, debate crawls while coats ship. If you're a parent staring at stain-resistant uniforms in August, you don't live inside a policy paper. You live inside the season. Microstory lands it. A third-grade teacher started logging headaches that lined up with her new classroom rug and a set of stain-resistant beanbags. By Halloween, half her students wore the same Easy Care polos. She didn't know what those finishes were called. She knew the room felt coated. The custodian swapped the beanbags for plain canvas. Parents shifted to untreated shirts, washed twice before wear. The baseline lifted. The rug stayed. The headaches didn't. Now the wrinkle-free trap. A portion of non-iron cotton uses cross-linkers with formaldehyde. Others add PFAS for soil release. On synthetics, oil and water repellency often means fluorinated side chains. One tag says crisp, another says easy care. Neither says which chemistry made it effortless. Under heat and time, those finishes age. Long-lasting freshness can mean a slow release you never asked for. Outdoor gear has an out. Brands have spent the last few years pivoting to fluorine-free DWR, new chemistries that bead rain without fluorinated tails. They behave differently. You'll need to reproof more often. You'll notice less dry like glass and more dry enough. That's a trade most hikers can live with. The reality, you didn't need industrial-grade repellency to wait in a car line. You needed a hood. What do you do if your closet already glows? Fixes are boring and powerful. For daily wear, skip stain-resistant unless the job truly demands it. Choose untreated cotton or wool, especially for kids. For outerwear, look for PFAS-free or fluorine-free DWR from credible brands and expect to retreat with non-fluorinated sprays when performance fades. Wash less and air more to reduce shedding and indoor load. Run a vent or crack a window during dryer cycle. Vacuum with a HEPA filter when possible. Dust carries the history of your finishes. Uniforms are leverage. One district spec can clean up 1,000 rooms. Write no intentionally added PFAS in textiles into bid documents for school polos, staff fleeces, and furniture. Vendors already stock compliant lines. They move when the order does. If you need a script, it's short. Stain-resistant by default is unnecessary. If a trade requires repellency, mechanics, forestry, emergency services, buy what the job needs and keep it out of bedrooms and playroom. A family story ends the debate without a fight. 2 kids wore stain-resistant khaki every weekday. The dryer vent perfumed the yard with a sweet chemical note. Their parents swapped in plain cotton pants, washed twice before first wear, and anoraks with fluorine-free DWR. They set a rule: coats off at the door, school clothes change when they get home. The laundry room went quiet. So did the throat tickle nobody had connected to pants. Here's the test you can run in a store aisle. If a hang tag brags about weeks of protection, ask yourself, from what, for how long, and with what chemistry? If the answer isn't written plainly, PFAS-free, fluorine-free, or certified by a credible program, assume the finish rides home with you. Then choose the item that looks boring on paper and behaves better in a room you breathe. Because rain should bead on a window, not in your lungs. Grease should stay on a napkin, not in your blood. And the only thing your kid's shirt should pass along is a grass stain you can wash, not a forever one you can't. The color trap: azo dyes, dispersed dyes, and allergic skin. Color feels harmless because it looks like taste. Pick what you love, wear what you feel. But the chemistry that makes black truly black and red hold through a season can turn skin into the warning label the tag didn't print. To get those saturated shades on modern fibers, manufacturers lean on two big families: azo dyes and dispersed dyes. One transforms into band building blocks Europe spelled out years ago. The other sits on polyester like confetti until heat, sweat, and friction push it into skin. Start with the classic, azo dyes. They're workhorses because they're cheap, versatile, and deliver deep tone. The catch isn't the dye in perfect conditions. It's what some azo dyes can split into. Aromatic amines Europe restricts because of cancer concerns. Regulators name 22 and set bright lines across textiles that touch skin. Brands selling in the EU reformulated, tested, and listed. The US never drew a single nationwide line across apparel. A shirt that passes on one side of the Atlantic can arrive on the other carrying a dye recipe nobody had to disclose in full. Then there's polyester, the default fabric of fast fashion. It doesn't soak up water-based dyes well, so color gets delivered with dispersed dyes, tiny, almost water-insoluble particles that lodge in the fiber. That's fine for fabric. It's a mess for skin. Under heat and motion, dispersed dye molecules can leach, especially when sweat lowers the barrier. Dermatologists see the same pattern: underarms, waistbands, backs of knees, where pressure and moisture stack. The reaction isn't random. It's a sensitization story you can trace by color and cut. Here's how it lands in real life. A high school track team gets new uniforms. 2 meets in, shoulders, ribs, and waistlines spark with itchy, raised patches that look like heat rash until the pattern says otherwise. Parents switch detergents, nothing changes. One trainer remembers an old lecture and orders patch tests for dispersed dye mixes. The kids who flared light up the panel. Samples sent to a lab show dispersed blue and dispersed orange. No national US clothing rule prohibits these specific allergens. The same brand ships an EU run with different dye recipes. The kids keep running in long-sleeve base layers that build a barrier. Black is its own trap. The richer the black on synthetics, the more likely dispersed dyes are doing the work. Those matte black leggings that promise squat-proof opacity hug the very places you sweat and flex. People blame detergent or elastic. Then they try a lighter color or a cotton blend and the problem evaporates. The fiber and dye, not the workout, were the trigger. Kids get dragged into this quietly. Fast fashion tees printed in deep navy and red look harmless. On a hot field day, collars bloom red, not from sun but from dye. Parents chase mysteries, new soap, new sunscreen, until a pediatrician asks the dull question: what changed? When did the rash start? What color was the shirt? Now draw the policy split plainly. Under REACH, Europe banned specific amines from azo dye breakdown and required hazard communication for allergens above thresholds, giving labs, brands, and consumers a map. In the US, there's no federal apparel-wide ban on those aromatic amines and no requirement to list dye allergens in clothing. You get feel-good claims, tested, compliant, without the list that would help you avoid a trigger. Meanwhile, state recalls and scattered enforcement chase individual cases after they've been worn. So what actually helps? Start boring. Wash deep, dark synthetics twice before first wear. Heat and water can pull unbound dye out before your skin has to. Favor cotton or tencel for high-friction zones, waistbands, inner thighs, underarms, where synthetics and dispersed dyes cause most trouble. If you love performance leggings, rotate colors. Lighter shades often carry less dye load. Look for dope-dyed or solution-dyed polyester in gear. Color added in the fiber-making step means less loose dye to rub off later. And yes, certifications help. OEKO-TEX standard 100 screens finished articles against restricted dye-related substances. Shein audits upstream so recipes shift before fabric hits a dye bath. Labels won't spell out dispersed blue 124 next to size medium, so use proxies. Matte, deep black synthetics in contact sport cuts are higher risk. Garments that bleed in the first wash are telling on themselves. If sink water turns dark, run another cycle before you wear. If a shirt smells like solvent when you open the bag, air it out and wash twice. Off-gassing isn't color, but the factory trail suggests the rest of the process cut corners. A micro-story seals it. A warehouse picker kept a rash around her waist all summer. She tried creams, swapped soaps, and even taped over the elastic. Nothing worked until a supervisor handed out company teas in a cotton blend and told the crew to wear cotton tanks under the polyester vests. 2 shifts later, the rash faded. Same job, same sweat, one fabric buffer. One more, a parent with an eczema-prone kid ditched the bargain 3-pack of deep navy polos and bought undyed cotton basics she dyed at home with a plant-based kit, then washed twice. The school complained once. The nurse's log stopped. The trade wasn't fashion for health. It was information for guesswork. Color isn't the villain, mystery is. Ask for disclosed allergen lists when you can. Reward brands that publish EU-style disclosures globally. And when a shade bites twice, believe it. The shirt won't take it personally. Your skin already did. Leather, chrome, and heavy metals. The tannery shadow. The belt didn't look dangerous. Neither did the watchband or the wallet. They smelled like the same new leather note you've known since childhood. But the way most leather becomes leather isn't a craft table, it's chemistry under pressure. And when that shortcut goes wrong, it leaves a fingerprint that shows up on skin as a burn you can't quite place. Start with the fastest path to finished. Chrome tanning took over because it works in hours, not weeks. Hides go from raw to wearable in blue-green baths built on chromium salts. Done right, chromium stays in a safer trivalent state bound in the matrix. Done sloppy, too much heat, bad storage, poor controls, and some of it oxidizes to chromium VI, the sensitizer nobody asked for. It doesn't announce itself at first. It shows up as an angry patch where skin and leather live together. Under a watch, around a belt line, across a shoe tongue. Europe drew a line years ago. The EU set a residual limit for chromium VI in leather goods, 3 mg/kg, because allergy clinics kept seeing the same patch tests light up. Brands had to manage process conditions and test finished articles. In the US, there's no specific federal cap for CR/VI in finished leather apparel. A belt that flunks in Berlin can clear shelves in Boise. The body doesn't care which airport it flew through. Now zoom in on hardware. Nickel is everywhere because it's cheap, bright, and tough. It's also one of the most common contact allergens on Earth. The EU capped nickel release for items in prolonged skin contact, watchbacks, snaps, rivets, so the shine doesn't come with a rash. In the US, you won't find a parallel apparel-wide limit. A jean button that looks identical under store lights behaves very differently after a summer. Here's how people meet it. A warehouse manager buys a stack of bargain belts for a uniform upgrade. 2 weeks in, 3 workers develop coin-sized blisters exactly where the buckle sits. They blame heat. The nurse runs a quick patch test panel. Chromium shows. The belts land in a box. A replacement order goes out, vegetable tan leather, nickel-safe buckles, and the problem stops. Same job, same sweat, different recipe. Not all leather is equal. Vegetable tan hides take time and plant tannins. The color ages, the stiffness softens, and you can smell tannery rather than solvent. It's slower and pricier, which is why fast markets skip it. There's also chrome-free and metal-free tanning using aldehydes and syntons. Those avoid chromium entirely but come with their own control needs. Residuals and biocides must be managed so a clean claim doesn't become a new rash. The shadows reach into linings and adhesives too. That buttery jacket sleeve that stains a shirt has more than dye to blame. Lining fabric can carry dispersed dyes and formaldehyde finishes that add friction to the story. The glue that holds a cheap insole can outgas more than a new car smell. When a product bites, it rarely uses one tooth. Policy sets the tone. Under REACH, brands learn to pull suspect chemistry upstream, test finished goods, and publish restricted substance lists. Under a lighter U.S. federal umbrella, disclosure becomes a promise, not a proof. Some American retailers have stepped in with house standards, nickel-safe, chromium VI not detected, supplier testing required, because lawsuits and returns cost more than better leather. But unless you see a standard you trust, you're guessing by price and polish. So what actually helps in real closets? For belts, watchbands, and shoes that live on skin, look for vegetable tanned or chrome-free claims backed by a credible certification. If a brand says nickel-safe and offers test data or references EU nickel release rules, take the win. For watches, titanium, ceramic, or coated stainless backs lower the odds. Leather-backed straps with fabric under layers add a buffer. If something new stings, stop martyring yourself, bag it, document the rash with dates and photos, and ask the brand for testing disclosures. Reputable companies will have them. A family moment drives it home. A teenager broke out in quarter-moon rashes under a new smartwatch. The pediatrician asked about laundry. Mom changed detergent. Nothing changed. A week later, someone suggested swapping the band. A fabric-lined strap went on. The rings faded. The brand's site eventually posted an update. Complies with EU nickel release. First run didn't. Footwear is the quiet backlog. Cheap boots tanned hot and finished fast shed color and chemistry under socks. If your ankles itch every time it rains, it's not a personality trait. Choose leather from makers who state tanning methods, use socks as a barrier during break-in, and air shoes out heat and moisture drive reactions. Insoles labeled chromium VI not detected and formaldehyde-free adhesives aren't luxury talk. They're Monday feet. And then there's second-hand. Vintage leather that's been worn and aired for years often behaves better than something glossy from a drop-shipped cart. The patina you love is time doing what chemistry didn't, finishing the process. None of this asks you to give up leather. It asks you to stop treating new as a virtue and old school as a vibe. Leather can be durable, repairable, and low drama if the path from hide to hinge respected skin. When in doubt, let boring claims lead. Vegetable tan, nickel safe, chromium VI not detected, certified to a standard
Foam,
you can
flame,
and formaldehyde.
The rest is just
the
shine.
safety that sticks to skin. The tag said compliant. The pajamas smelled fresh. A parent tugged the collar and felt that tacky stiffness that passes for quality on a busy aisle. By midnight, the toddler's neck was flushed and hot. The label language had done its job. The fabric did another. This is where an old fear still edits new clothes. In the 1970s, sleepwear rules were written to cut burn risk. Manufacturers had two paths, designed for snug fit that starves a flame or treat fabric so it resists one. The clean option is boring and reliable, tight cuts in natural fibers that pass a simple candle test. The other route moves chemistry onto bodies. Tris-like flame retardants rode children's pajamas until doctors and toxicologists forced them out. Then the industry pivoted. Treatments slid into foams, interlinings, and trims. The label still read compliant. The contact stayed. Walk through a home and you'll meet it without noticing. Quilted pajamas that hold their shape like cardboard. Costume capes that claim flame-resistant. Quilted sleep sacks that feel slightly waxy. In furniture, the same reflex hid in cushions for years. Flame-retardant-treated foams built to meet open flame standards that didn't match how fires actually start. Researchers kept finding the legacy chemicals downstream, in house dust, in pets, in people. The fixes came piecemeal. Some states rewrote flammability rules to focus on smolder resistance without demanding chemical proofing. Brands moved with the law, but the residue of that era still lives in closets and hand-me-downs. Formaldehyde threads through this story quietly. It's not a flame retardant, but it's part of the same illusion, safety as a feeling delivered by finish. Cross-linking resins harden cotton so it resists wrinkling, speeds production, stacks on hangers clean. Under EU rules, there are caps for free formaldehyde in textiles that touch skin. In the US, there's no federal textile limit. Shirts that brag non-iron can off-gas under heat and time and irritate thin skin around collars, inside elbows, behind knees. The fabric sits there for 12 hours. The contact tells. Here, that's where it gets stranger. To dodge overt flame chemicals in kids' sleepwear, manufacturers lean hard on the snug fit exemption. That's good design when it's honest. It's a loophole when a garment that behaves like a costume gets cut close, stamped not intended for sleepwear, and sold next to pajamas. Parents buy safety-sounding claims. Kids wear them to bed. The tag gets the brand off the hook. The contact doesn't. Microstory makes it human. A pediatric nurse started logging an odd pattern. Winter rashes on chins and chests, mostly toddlers, mostly after holidays. She asked one parent to bring in the sleep sack. It felt like a raincoat. She suggested two changes. Swap to a snug-fit cotton pajama labeled to that effect and wash it twice before first wear with an unscented detergent. 2 weeks later, the mom emailed a single sentence. The rash is gone. The sleep sack moved to a donation pile. It shouldn't have. Meanwhile, in furniture and car seats, standards drift. California's TB 117/2013 shifted the landscape by focusing on smolder resistance for foam and fabric without requiring open flame performance that drove heavy flame retardant use. Many brands went chemical-free in cores to meet it. labels began to tell a different story. But imported foam and aftermarket pads still carry legacy chemistry. Kids lie face down on treated surfaces. Pets sleep there. House dust keeps the record. What actually helps? For kids, look for the words snug fit and not flame resistant on sleepwear. That sounds wrong and it's right. Snug-fitting cotton and wool pass without chemical treatment because they deny a flame the air it needs. Avoid loose, fuzzy, or coated fabrics for sleep unless you can verify they're free of flame retardant treatments. Wash all new sleep items twice before use to strip finishes. Skip fragrances. They add irritation without solving a risk. For costumes and lounge sets, treat not intended for sleepwear as a real boundary, not fine print. If a child falls asleep in a cape or princess dress, change them. If they nap on treated pillows or foam wedges, rethink those surfaces. For mattresses and sofas, look for TB 117/2013 compliance with statements contains no added flame retardants and ask the retailer for a certification letter. It's not overkill, it's a filter. Formaldehyde has a boring fix. Choose untreated basics over wrinkle-free. If you need easy care, favor knits or blends that drape without resins. If a shirt smells sharp out of the bag, air it out and wash twice. In nurseries, don't iron a brand new non-iron sheet. Heat drives emissions. Wash first, then use. Policy still splits screens. The EU caps formaldehyde and has moved away from open flame tests that invite chemical shortcuts. The US relies on design exemptions, voluntary claims, and updated smolder standards in some categories. Car seats and juvenile products live under their own rules and marketing pressure. Brands tell you they go beyond compliance. Ask how. Ask for what? One last house scene. A daycare switched nap mats from vinyl-coated foam to tightly woven cotton covers over plain mats. They laundered covers weekly in an unscented wash. They posted a small sign, "Snug fit pajamas only." Parents grumbled once. The coughs got quieter. The hallway stopped smelling like a new tent. Safety didn't leave the room. The theater did. Ultra-fast fashion loophole.